Volkswagen has extended its popular Tiguan lineup in Australia with the introduction of the Tiguan All-Space Adventure. As the name and the mud on our test car might suggest, this is a vehicle that's purportedly geared for action on the weekends. It's got the space of the Tiguan All-Space minus 2 seats, so a 5-seat SUV, plus the most powerful 162 TSI petrol engine available. Let's take a closer look. The Tiguan All-Space Adventure lands in Australia from October in limited numbers, with just 1,500 examples secured in total. Each is based on the larger long-wheelbase Tiguan All-Space footprint, but with the 6th and 7th seats removed. The Adventure is also positioned at the more affordable end of the All-Space portfolio, priced at $51,990 before on-road costs. The All-Space Adventure rides on 17-inch alloy wheels with taller profile tyres, together with other additions including tyre pressure monitoring, sport suspension, and the option of one of 3 no-cost accessory packages, bringing rear sunshades, all-weather floor mats, or even snow chains to the table. The Tiguan All-Space Adventure is backed by Volkswagen's 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty in Australia and the option of 3 or 5-year service packs available at the point of purchase. Now that effectively makes the Tiguan All-Space Adventure the cheapest ticket into Volkswagen's popular 162 TSI engine in Australia. In this form, it's matched as standard to 4Motion all-wheel drive and a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. You also get things like hill descent control, but no rear diff lock. So it's certainly a great way to get into the most powerful engine in the Tiguan range. The engine is accompanied by a beefier plastic underbody protection package, which is borrowed from other Volkswagen Tiguan All-Space markets. Inside the Volkswagen Tiguan All-Space Adventure follows a very similar brief. So you're getting things like cloth seats, lots of incidental storage, but all the nice touches of the regular Tiguan range. 8-inch centre touchscreen display, digital instrument cluster, wireless phone charging, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you name it. Everything here is legible and really well presented. There are some cheaper touch points, not at the direct contact points in the cabin, but all in all, I feel like you're getting good value for the circa $50,000 starting price. Those credentials are underlined by great packaging and proportions in the Tiguan All-Space Adventure cabin, together with strong technology and safety. In fact, every item on our infotainment checklist is ticked as standard with the exception of a head-up display, while in terms of safety, every base is covered out of the box. The Volkswagen Tiguan All-Space has already won plenty of accolades for its interior packaging over the years. And when you jump in, it's a great opportunity to re-familiarise yourself with the layout. The second row space in particular is incredible when you consider the overall length of this SUV. There's so much legroom, so much headroom, and a nice open glass house as well. I think once you add in things like the optional summer package, which brings the blinds, the rubber floor mats and everything else, you have a really convincing package in the skin. But regardless, you're getting rear air vents, you're getting a drop-down centre armrest, and you're getting separate charging points as well. It feels like a really well thought out and practical space. The All-Space Adventure is well versed on carrying little ones too, with ISOFIX attachment points on the rear outbound pews and top tether points across the rear bench. Now with the rear 2 seats of the Tiguan All-Space removed, the Tiguan All-Space Adventure boasts a boot capacity of 760 litres. And just like the All-Space, the second row has forwards and backwards sliding adjustments, so it's quite a practical little space, again, when you consider the overall proportions of this car. It's also a space that's boosted by the likes of a flat floor, a luggage net, these split folding levers which allow you to really stow the back seat quite quickly and effectively from the boot area, plus a 12-volt outlet. That said, I do have a couple of little foibles. This vehicle is really promoted as an adventure vehicle, so you would naturally expect a full-size spare wheel. This only has a space saver temporary spare tyre. You're also missing an electric adjustment function for the boot lever. It's manual only.
Okay, so quite incredibly, this is now the 26th different SUV member in Volkswagen Australia's portfolio locally. So you kind of go, well, does it really have enough differentiation from every other model, let alone every other Tiguan variant? And I have to say, yes, it probably does. I really do think it has cherry-picked all the good elements of the Tiguan range. So the space of the Tiguan Allspace, the engine of the 162 TSI R-Line, the fact that you can get the engine now, and then kind of all the adventure traits as well. I don't want to sound like I've drunk the Kool-Aid, certainly haven't, but I do think there is a lot of merit in this package. With all of that said, as a day-to-day proposition, it has a lot of the typical character traits of a Tiguan SUV fitted with that engine. So the EA 888 engine, we've said it many times on this website before, pulling away from the curbside, there is a little bit of that signature hesitation, some lurchiness. It's a symptom of the DSG transmission and the turbocharged engine. But once you are up and running, it is very expedient, very effective at what it does, and quite clinical and well timed with the way it goes about its business. So tinkering around town now, I can just lean on the torque of the engine. There's plenty there. But also you have a 7-speed dual clutch automatic transmission that will willingly kick down gears as it needs to. This just makes for a drivetrain that is never overly stressed. It can be clinical, it can be punchy, and it can be quite efficient as well. So to give you an example, we have just completed a 150 kilometre journey that has included inner city driving, lots of highway, lots of country roads, a stint of dirt roads as well, and we've averaged 7.7 litres per 100 Ks. So quite effective in practice. The other side of this drivetrain is that it will happily sit at highway speed. You're spinning it just below 2000 RPM in that kind of open road passage. And when you ask a little bit more of it, go to sport mode, and it's quite an effective drivetrain in that capacity as well. Certainly no slouch between corners on a mountain pass, everything else, and just quite an enjoyable and well-rounded drivetrain. So I said before that this gets the different elements of the Tiguan range, I guess the better elements of the Tiguan range. One of those is probably the variable ratio steering. So you get different weighting, different rack speed and all the rest depending on which mode you're in. And it just again adds to the all-roundedness of this vehicle. In sports mode, you get enough weighting, it doesn't feel overly artificial. In regular mode, it's light in day-to-day conveyance, so it makes those little nippy turning situations a little bit easier as well. As an extended feature of that, vision is great in the Tiguan Allspace Adventure, so you get the open glass house of the Tiguan Allspace at the front and the rear. It's really easy to kind of see out of. You get nice and low in the cockpit, yet you can see all of the road ahead. So it really does cultivate a nice feel behind the wheel. Now, in terms of bump compliance, you are now riding on 17-inch alloy wheels, so thicker tyre walls, and theoretically a little bit more protection from what's happening underneath, a little bit more isolation, and it definitely feels that way in the skin. The tyres are still grippy during sportier driving, yet you do get that added little bit of insulation over bumps. So there's still definitely a sporty premise to all the key controls, and that includes the ride and handling mix, the occasional thud as you might hear, and a little bit of tyre roar on rougher coarse chip bitumen. But equally, it feels really well connected to the road, and I like that. It feels like it's tied down. You can feel bumps in the road accordingly, and largely you're getting away with no huge crashing moments, just a little bit of thudding. But for me, that kind of buys into the European sporty veneer of the Tiguan itself. So a big element of today's driving has been an extended section of dirt road, and I don't mean gnarly hill climbs or rocky descents or anything. I just mean everyday gravel roads, so the type that you'd encounter if you were going out to find a mountain bike trail or a unique camping spot or anything else. I have to say on that, this has been the real surprise package with the Tiguan Allspace Adventure. I already knew it had a really well-honed stability control suite. On dirt, it's really quite effective, surprisingly so, at just making little benign nips at each wheel as it needs to if you're going into an off-camber corner, to make this vehicle feel really well tied down to the surface underneath. That's on gravelly, loose surfaces and on the road alike. With all the rain that we've had on the east coast of Australia in the past few months, this has been really quite effective at shaking off mid-corner bumps, really doing a great, admirable job of isolating occupants from huge potholes, big G-outs in the road, long extended undulations alike. So I have to say, even though it has the same ground clearance, about 185 millimeters, it has the same suspension package, there's a little bit more underbody protection, but the fundamental difference here is just the tyres and the wheel package. This is actually really well versed in the off-road stuff. I wouldn't want to take it on an extended section of four-wheel driving, although it does have a hill descent control function and the all-wheel drive feature. But for the occasional gravel road, I think the Tiguan Allspace Adventure actually does as intended. It does what it says it's supposed to do on the packet. So that is our first impression of the Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace. If you wanted to be a little cynical, you could argue, yes, this is perhaps a marketing play. It's limited to 1,500 vehicles, but I have to say, after spending time in it on different surfaces, it's quite a convincing little package. It's the cheapest point of entry into the 1.62 TSI engine. It's all-wheel drive. It has all the spatial benefits of the Tiguan Allspace, but with no rear seats. So in a lot of ways, this makes a lot of sense, and I have to say, it's really compelling in the skin.